session 2 of our series 2 of Why Jesus Came. And today we're going to look at another well-known story, and that's David and Goliath. And of course this is another part of the ongoing conflict with the Philistines. The battle takes place in a valley that was a very strategic valley. It was a gateway to the coastal plain. And so the Philistines came up from the coast and the Israelites were coming down from the hills. The Philistines had all the advantage. They had iron, and so they had armour, and they had swords. The Israelites had practically nothing. Only Saul had armour, and only Saul and Jonathan had swords. All the rest would have had clubs and whatever they could grab. So the Philistines were the ones with all the latest technology. Their champion was Goliath, and he was said to be 9 feet tall. He had bronze armour, he had bronze weapons. Every day he'd go down into the valley and he'd shout at the Israelites to send someone down to fight him, and whoever won the fight would win the war. Naturally, the Israelites were terrified because none of them could fight against a man like that. David was only a young boy. We know that because it was the job of children to mind the flocks. And so David really was perhaps 10 years old. And he was sent to the battle line to take provisions to his brothers. And that's when he heard Goliath calling out to the army. And he said, "What's going to be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" Now, King Saul wasn't too sure about sending young David out to fight and tried to put armour on him. But of course, the armour was miles too big, and David had no idea how to cope with armour. But David explained that he'd both killed a bear and a lion with his own hands, and God would do the same for the Philistine. David took the tools that a shepherd knew how to use, and that was a slingshot and a stone, because they used to use that to get a wandering sheep to turn back to the flock, and they were experts at hitting the right spot with that stone. When Goliath saw David, he cursed him by his gods, and he said, "Come here, and I'll give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals." David's reply, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord God Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." And we know that David dispatched Goliath with one well-placed stone and then cut off his head. And why did he do it? That the whole world may know there is a God in Israel. All the might and the latest technology of the Philistine army was defeated by a boy with a slingshot, because he went in the power of God and he used the one skill that he had. Now there's an important follow-up to this story. David grew and he became very popular. He became very good at leading armies to victory, so much so that Saul became very jealous of him, and Saul wanted to kill him. And so David was hiding all over the place, but eventually, to escape Saul, he went to the land of the Philistines. He gained favour with one of the Philistine kings, who gave David and his men a city to have as their own. And David lived there for many years until Saul was killed in battle by the Philistines. After this, it was safe for him to return to Israel, which he did, and he was anointed king. But he took with him, and we believe it was David who took with him, the ability to work in iron. And that's the very thing that had made the Philistines so dominant. In other words, David latched on to the one thing that gave them their strength and their success. And eventually, the Philistines were defeated. And this is a lesson for us. What is it in our society that makes it run well? Is it our education system? Is it our laws? Is it politics? What are the tools? Whatever they are we as Christians using those tools? Because if we want to make an impact on our society, we need to get involved with the tools that make it run successfully.
Everyone needs compassion, love that's never failing. Let mercy fall on me. Everyone needs forgiveness, the kindness of the Savior, the hope of measure. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. So take me as you find me, with all my fears and failures, and fill my life again. I give my life to follow, and everything I believe in, and I surrender. I surrender. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Shine your light and let the whole world know. Singing for the glory of the risen King. Jesus, shine your light and let the whole world know. We're singing for the glory